Selamat datang ke ASM Podcast yang dibawakan khas oleh Akademi Sains Malaysia. Siri podcast ini merupakan platform perkongsian topik-topik berkaitan sains, teknologi, inovasi dan ekonomi STIE secara santai dan mudah difahami. Setiap episod akan menampilkan jaringan pakar ASM yang akan berkongsi pengalaman dan pendapat mereka tentang STIE seiring dengan etos ASM. Budayakan sains, raikan teknologi, cetuskan inovasi.
Hello and good day everyone. Welcome to the new episode of ASM Podcast. My name is Najib Muhammad Idris.
And I'm Natasha Kai.
And we'll be your host for today. And we are honored today to have with us the one and only Datu Dr. Lulie Melling. Thank you Datu for joining us today.
Yes, you're most welcome. Thank you very much.
So for our viewers and listeners, Datu Lulie is a fellow of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia and currently serve as the chairperson of the ASM Sarawak chapters. And she is also the former director of the Sarawak Tropical Peat Research Institute, or well known as TROPI, where she brings extensive experience and leadership to this field. And most recently, Datu Lulie was appointed as the Hokkaido University Global PR Ambassador for the term 2025-2027. Congratulations, Datu Lulie, and thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
Congrats again, Dato. I'm so excited today, Najib, sebab ada orang Sarawak coming to our studio today in ASM, and lebih-lebih lagi, this is pembukaan of 2026 podcast Academy Science Malaysia. So Datu, before we go deep dive into the topic today, where we're going to talk about science education and how it's progressing in Malaysia, why not Datu bring us to the way from the beginning? How was your journey from your childhood, daripada sekolah, and now you are a scientist? Have you envisioned yourself the way you are today?
Well, as a Sarawakian, it's not possible to envision that one day you can become a global scientist, because of the resources that you are in, the setbacks you're in, the exposure that you are not able to see. But it just so happened that, I like to find answers to things that is happening around me. And I used to be commented that I love to explore what is within my school compound. And then I used to go and play in the rubber garden in the backyard of my house, where I gave an excuse of cari lauk, So I gumpul ferns, untuk lauk, so I don't get reprimanded by my parents for disappearing from the house. And then at the same time, during some of the school holidays, my parents would bring us back to balik kampung. We go up to the longhouse, and then we will again venture into the woods. And I find that I always find peace in the woods, because you don't have to deal with human being, So then when I was doing my undergraduate, during my final year, I came to realize that research has no limit to what you want to explore. And the minute when I graduate, then when I found a job as a soil surveyor, it was like research officer bracket soil surveyor. I jumped onto it and applied, So that was, I think, it kept on going, because to me, like when I was in the Department of Agriculture, I saw the issue of the problem of peat soil. And then I didn't want to compete with the men. So I chose a field that the men are not interested in, because they don't like to get their cigar wet, and then the peat was very acidic. So I just continue to do it. Yeah.
So that's the point where you realize that education definitely will change your life in that sense.
Oh, that time it's still not possible to envision that education will change your life. That time it's just like I love reading. Reading is very important, and the continuous exploration via reading. And then it just keep on moving. And then I think that is the thing that kept me going, with my education, was the fact that I always like to solve a problem, because each year as you go through the school days, you have higher challenges, so you always run for it, and you find the real excitement of, trying to see how things move forward. Yeah. So because at that time, in Sarawak, at that time, you cannot envision what is university education, Yeah, it's difficult. Yes, yeah.
Yes. Also, Datu, you saying that you like reading from when you're a kid. Any book that inspired you the most? Like, you know.
Mm. The other thing is that when you were in school,
Yeah.
as you say, you like reading, the accessibility to the books were not there, you know. So I had a handicap when I'm asked to write something to imagine, you know, because if you have to write an essay on please imagine this or imagine that for you to write, I'm in tears, you know, because I'm not good in doing that sort of writing. I'm good in what I read, like the technical part, and then you just write it down. So that's why at one stage in my life, actually I flung all my paper one essay. I have the facts, but I don't know how to elaborate the facts, you know. So it was quite torturous. So I do meet people who ever said, "Hey, this is very easy to write. You should be able to know how to write." You know, it's if you have the standard of Enid Blyton. Excuse me, you almost cannot even buy textbook. How to have access to Enid Blyton books to learn to improve your English, and then you also don't have access to reference books. You know, because like during my time, we were among the last batch of students that was using English for our high school, you know. So, and being a Bumi Putra, so-called, you know, and being a native, you don't have senior brothers and sisters or cousins who have reached that level to have those reference books to hand me down. As compared to your other friends who are Chinese, they have, you know. So it's you know, it's quite frustrating, you know. Yeah, it's really quite frustrating. So I guess I think it's more your perseverance. So you just have to learn how to test yourself, you know, create questions to test yourself whether you understand, whether you know. Yeah.
So and then recently, we've got to know that you went to SMK Sibujaya to share your experience to the school students there. So do they share anything about their concern or how they can move forward with science, for example?
Yeah. You see, the environment the students are in is very challenging because they are in the environment where people tell them that science is hard, science is tough, you know, but actually it's not true, you know. So you have to give them the mindset. It's not just the student, it's also the teachers, it's also the school principal, because the school principals also have their KPI, whereby they need to show that the students get good results. So they minimize the number of science students in the school in order to maintain the good result of the school. And that become a handicap to the students who don't know the importance. And then on top of that, parents also tell the student, don't take science, you know, take the art subject so that you can get better result. But they all overlook the fact that this science, the error now, you need the science. You need the science because is the level of literacy now. Gone are the days to say that, you need to know how to read, you need to know how to write. No. You need to have the minimum of the Form 5 science. Even a C, you know, your results getting a C is still a passport to the future, especially for boys who are late bloomers. You need to give them the hammer so that they will know how to use it, you know. If they never have the language of the science, they can't move, you know. Yeah. So there are students who let's say in the Form 5, they get average result C. I dare say some of them manage to become scientists in the world. Some of them manage to reach the PhD level. Now, if you have deprived them of that passport, you know, to do science until Form 5, what is their future? So the same thing that, you know, for especially those who want to do nursing. You know, nursing job is so wide, you know, yet you deprive them of that passport to go into nursing after Form 5 without the science. So, you know, so now the school have now managed to increase the number of science students from currently 15 in Form 5 to about 40 for Form 4. Yes. But we need to push harder. Yes.
So how do you see this kind of like what you call this, the situation in Sarawak itself. So do you see it improve a lot over the time, or how?
I can't say much. The only thing that I know that what happened last year, I was invited by the Persatuan Pengetua-Pengetua Sekolah Sarawak to give a talk to create awareness to the whole school principals on the importance of science and how it is the future, the passport of the student. They should not think about themselves. So they should be more responsible elders, not about, it's not about the legacy of, they should leave a legacy that they open doors to students, not about their KPI. Yeah. So the education department should not impose that KPI to the pengetua, to the school, because I think it's a bit selfish. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's what we have the big myth that we're always saying science is only for smart people. So what do you have for that, Datu? You agree with that statement?
No, science is not meant for smart people. Science is meant for students who are given the system on how to study. Now, the other things that I am always very concerned is that what happened is that there are many people who give motivation talks, or people even asking students to study hard to achieve their education. But the main issue is not being handled. So like for me, I've been invited to a lot of talks. People always ask me, excuse me, Dr. Lulie, could you please tell us how to make people become scientists? And I always decline to answer the question because to me, it's because I look at myself. I could never imagine it. So because of, you have to understand, you have to handle the needs of the student first. The basic needs. The basic needs of the student as what it is in Maslow, is it? The Maslow, okay, do they have enough food to eat? Do they have enough nutrition? Now, do they have enough pencil, the necessity things to go to school? These are not being addressed. So if you don't address this, you really can't push the student, And actually recently, there was a girl who committed suicide in Indonesia, a 10-year-old girl. She committed suicide because she didn't have the money to buy pencil.
So do you think because of the resources are limited, so the students think that okay, we cannot learn science at its peaks. So what do you think about that situation?
Now, wait. I think that question is a bit tricky. It's not that way. The student will not know. Okay. And also at the same time, it goes back to family. It goes back to parents. It goes back, everything starts from home. If the parents are not aware of the need of the children, how can the children know? Okay? Now, if you really observe enough, okay, why students find it hard to study science? Why most of the rural students find it hard to study science? Or the poor children find it hard to study science? It's because they don't have the energy to study. To study needs more energy as compared to reading. Okay? And to study science, it needs more thinking. And having to have more thinking, you need more energy. You need to have the energy food. You need to have the nutrition for your body to function, for your brain to function. So, imagine rural students, poor students, come to school with empty stomach. Pukul 10, dia dah layu. So what more to say by lunchtime? How to study? And what more to say by evening time? Orang yang miskin or the rural students, for parents who don't realize it, they are actually malnourished, So when you're malnourished, you don't have the energy. And then people yang tak faham, dia kata, oh ni budak ni malas. Dia bukan malas. dia tak ada tenaga untuk belajar. So we don't handle this issue of the nutrition of the students. How to talk about the next level?
That's true.
Yeah. If you just observe, actually there was a program that was created during Najib's time, whereby a group volunteered from West Malaysia to give a talk to primary 6 students, you know. So on Saturday, they organized for Chinese school student. On Sunday, they organized for national school. So you look at the Chinese school students, you know, they'll be running here and there, you know, so energized. Until pukul 9 malam, they are very energized now. You think, and then you see the national school students come, you know, very quietly, mannerly, sit down properly. Tapi when come to Q&A, dia tak dapat jawab. So it's all about food. Everything starts from food, and food starts from home. And then you look at Chinese school students. There is a must. Every children from kindy bawa botol air with water, plain water. Orang kita tak. Orang kita, we don't have that habit. And we forgot that when our brain need to function, our brain is, how many percent is water? Our body is 70% water. When you think, you know, you need to bagi minyak untuk you punya otak. Okay? And the nutrition need to flow, your energy need to flow, and it's all through your blood, through the water. So kalau you tak cukup air minum, you payah nak berfikir. You can't think. So other than you really have to have enough nutrition, you really have to have water minum.
So when your recent visit to SMK Sipujaya, do you experience that kind of like situation whereby the students feel like low energy, they don't like understand the science, or how? I mean, do you think that's about it, or like is there any other cause that make them feel that science is hard to learn, or how?
Because what happened is that the principal wanted to optimize my time at the school. When I went there to visit the site the day before the presentation, there was the welcoming of the Form 1 students with their parents. I was pushed to the stage by the principal to give the talk, you know, when I was just there to visit. So I just asked 2 simple questions. So I asked, I asked, how many of you took eggs for breakfast this morning before you come to school? Only 50% of the students. How many of you bring water bottle to school? Only 50%. At that level, how? I said to them, then because I asked the students, the Form 1 students, all to stand up, you know, to show them that who they are, and ask them the questions. Then after that, next I asked, now, can all the parents stand up? All the school children clap their hand. They want their parents. Because they don't have the local standard to talk to the parents. So I told the parents, as you want your children to go to school, their basic needs, we're not looking for luxury. Don't give them Maggi mee. Don't cut corners on the food. Sekurang-kurangnya buatlah nasi goreng dengan telur. Give them the energy. Make sure they bring plain water, bukan air manis, bukan air Milo sampai basi, you know. You have to cultivate that at home, you know. Make sure they drink water before they sleep so that the body can get refreshed. Make sure they drink water, warm water in the morning before they come to school. And make sure they are well fed. Yeah. No, don't, kita sebagai ibu bapa mesti bertanggungjawab. Itu nama dia ibu bapa.
True. I think during our time, Najib, kismis, remember?
Yup, kismis.
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing that I think back at our time, like we have that rancangan makanan tambahan RMT. So that's the case where the school children who are underprivileged, that they give the foods to the school children lah who are affected lah.
Are you sure?
I mean like some of us lah. I mean like in my case is on me lah. So I get the RMT. So okay, I have the foods and I have the drinks. So I think that's the case lah, whereby like the underprivileged students get the RMT part.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that why you look so Montel now, is it?
Yeah, because they well fed me in that part. Yeah.
I think it's very hard to say. I think Najib, not all schools
Yeah,
receive
not all
that.
schools
I
get
don't
it.
know.
That's the case lah. I think like
Sekolah
when you
swasta
say
ni.
that the thing is like it all starts from home. Maybe
But that's
the parents need to well fed the kids, and
Yeah.
then the school need to well fed the students. So I think the energy they need itu yang diperlukan lah untuk maju ke hadapan in term of like study and understand on the next level.
I think because school
Yeah.
nowadays also from AM to PM, they're really from morning until petang. Like I heard that the schools now, okay, in the session morning you have full learning in the school, and then lepas tu ada kafa for most of the school here. I think kafa until late evening, and then we have KK some more. So yes, like food really playing a big role, especially they are growing up, so they need enough feeding of nutrients. That's true.
Actually, kadang-kadang some poor family lah, you know, some families lah, you know, they don't have the right formula. Actually, nasi goreng is still cheaper than Maggi mee. You know,
Maggi dah mahal.
nasi dengan telur is still cheaper than makan burger, makan all the junk food. You should limit the junk food. You should limit the sweet drink. You know. So there is this biskut Osborne untuk belajar malam, cicah dalam air Milo, you know, and then there is that biskut Mary, you know, this is untuk belajar, you know, untuk bekal, and then the mothers should buat the nasi. Sometimes you can buat tak semestinya nasi goreng, nasi biasa dengan lauk. Pastikan dia makan pagi. Boleh masak ikan keli, dapat omega. Boleh tanam sayur dekat rumah, you know. And then also at the same time, tapi the cheapest protein, God bless the world, is telur ayam. You know. Telur ayam kalau you buat kat rumah, 30 sen. Kalau you beli kat kedai, RM1, 90 sen. So jadilah orang tua yang soleh dan soleha kepada anak-anak, you know.
Yeah.
Understand. So, I mean like moving on to the next questions, Datu. So, I think students nowadays like they wanted to become an influencers. I think it's not wrong lah, definitely. But then like I think the plus point if you are influencers with education, that definitely will be a great combination. So, what do you think about that?
Influencer ni dia fashion of that time. Tapi you also must remember, you jadi influencer jago kampung ke you jadi influencer antarabangsa? Kalau you jadi influencer antarabangsa with education, at least you tahu that it is sustainable, you know. Tapi kalau you jadi influencer dengan muka you fikir you fashion, you pandai buat aksi ini, aksi itu, those are very short term, you know. Everything you do, you must have a skill. You must have value. You have to earn your global respect. Then you can be, you have the local standby to be a good influencer. Influencer is a tool untuk menunjuk muka kepada semua orang. Tapi at the end of the day, what is your content? Creativity, innovation is only created if you have content. Because you need thinking. You need to read the global issue. You need to know what is the global interest. That is where it is very important to have good education. Okay, the best example, I'm sure a lot of people know the comedy Mr. Bean. Excuse me, Mr. Bean is an Oxford graduate. Now, if you want to be an influencer by just having a Form 3 or Form 5 education, excuse me, how can you sustain? Be like Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean is an Oxford graduate.
Yeah. He grew up with Mr. Bean as well. Yeah. So in this case, I feel that it's just not the students who play their own role. It's also based on the educator and institution and also parents especially, they have to better play their role. So for this, Datu, what is your perspective on this? How do they can better bring their role towards, guiding the students towards this path, the correct path?
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of parents sekarang, they like to blame the school. They forgot their role of parenting. The values and the discipline should be enforced at home. Teachers are to educate, they educate the students. I mean, for the teachers to prepare the teaching material, everything is already a volume to do, They also have families. So how can parents push all these things to the teachers? The value of respect has to be enforced at home by the parents, and the parents have to set example. How do you expect the teachers to teach monkeys, indisciplined children? You spend so much energy to discipline. It is very much easier for teachers to teach disciplined children. Then they can move forward better, because, like for parents, you don't point the finger at the teachers first with that one finger. The 3 fingers, you nilai yourself first. And you must remember, budak ni tak bodoh. Depan mak bapak dia santai-santai, tapi di sekolah dia jadi hantu. So I think parents should also evaluate their own anak dulu lah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I feel that the first thing nowadays kan banyak working parents, so they kind of like depending too much on the teachers, and some sort of blaming the teachers is very unfair because everything start from home. That is true, Dato. So Najib, anything for you to add on?
I think like macam Datuk kata, macam like everything start from home. So for example, untuk students berminat dengan sains, jadi adakah macam parents should start small in term of like having simple habits or ways of learning that actually work even without tuition or fancy tools?
Well, actually, parenting starts from toddler. Okay, you have to empower them. Tanggungjawab di rumah. So, for example, like, the minute the baby know how to crawl, he must know how to put dia punya pampers pergi dalam bakul. Botol air, botol susu hantar pergi belakang. So, you have to create it that way lah. The minute they know how to walk, kalau dia suka nak pakai kereta, bagi dia kain, tolong lap kereta, tolong lap meja. So, it become a habit, Tapi some parents, dia tak nak leceh. Dia rasa sekali dia dah beritahu anak tak ikut, dia buat sendiri. No. Parenting is perseverance. And then don't have this bad habit yang bring their children to shopping mall. Bring them for picnic. It's cheap. Bawa bekal, nowadays very seldom you hear parents bawa anak dia pergi picnic, And then in the evening bawa dia pergi park, duduk sana sambil you talk to them, and then you let them play. They need to play. They need to run, to sweat it out. And then on top of that, all those picnics, it doesn't cost any money. Buat mi goreng, nasi goreng, ayam goreng. Oh, I tell you, the children will love it, You can create a group of parents, bawa pergi picnic. Then they explore. Like go to the beach, they get to see the shell, they get to see the landscape, they get to see the sky, they get to know the water. Tapi sekarang sikit-sikit pergi shopping. So, siapa yang salah? Budak ke salah ke mak bapak yang malas?
Yeah. It's a real life learning. Yeah, it's true.
So, since like we have a short time left, so like for students who are still undecided about science, so what is the message that you wanted to say to them during this podcast?
You all must aim minimum for 5 science. But of course, I always like to tell people, you decide your science even until A level or until Form 6. Then you decide after that whether you want to go to arts or you go to science. Because now everything depends on science. The apps, the AI. And then I always have a joke, Janganlah tunggu nak mati nanti baru belajar biology, tahu ubat ni untuk jantung, ubat ni untuk kidney, ubat ni untuk nak jadi awet muda. These are all science. You want to make yourself pretty? It's science, It's not arts.
Betul.
And you want to seduce a man? There must be a way how to win the stomach, win the heart through the stomach. You must learn how to cook. It is still science. You must know how much salt to put, how much sugar to put. Those are all science.
Yes. So you definitely learn the best way lah. Definitely you are the scientist and you know how to put more salt or less salt in the food lah for your husband, I guess.
Oh, of course, he's a laughing Buddha. So the thing is that especially if you want to be a good chemist starts from the kitchen.
Understand?
Yeah. So even if you want to be a sport car driver, you need to be good in physics. Or else how do you know how to adjust all the engine?
True.
You want to have a very good motorbike, you need to know how to adjust. All those are science. So, I mean, it is very, very basic. Yeah.
It's true.
Even if you want to be a rich influencer, you need to know your account. You need to learn your 1, 2, 3.
So education matters, especially
Yep.
even being an influencer. Yeah. So Datu, I think before we wrap up our session, is it Najib? Is it okay if I just say,
Yes.
Datu, ada message that you would like to share to our parents, especially, and also to the teachers to hear outside there? Apa yang kita mau sampaikan dengan sidaknya supaya daknya dengar? Yeah.
Yeah. To the parents, is it? Yeah. Children is God's blessing. Okay? So it is our tanggungjawab sebagai ibu bapa to bring them up well. So, and there is a saying that it takes a community to bring up children. Kalau orang tegur anak kita tak betul, don't just tak setuju. Perhatikan. Because normally if you observe, when parents who went after the teachers and blame the teachers for the indiscipline of their children, please look back. Did they go far? Did that child go far? There is no success without discipline. There is no success. Everything starts with respect. If you never train your your anak to respect the teachers, then how is your anak going to learn? So it is very important to have the respect to elders. Yeah. It's the same thing is if your children don't respect you as a parent, do you think it's easy for you to bring up your kid? But you as parents must also earn the respect of your kid. You must set example. So that's it. Everything starts from we ourselves.
Okay. I think that's a wrap for our discussion today on the ASM podcast. Thank you so much, Datu Lulie, for your great insights, especially because we learned so much about how education can definitely shape life, break barriers and open doors.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we hear from Datu Lulie, and also her, her sharing about how to get better nutrients. I think that's the least that people take into account. So to our listeners, especially students, parents, and also the educators, we hope today's conversation sparks a new way of thinking about learning, possibilities, and the future that we're building up together. So until next time, thank you for joining us and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Datu Lulie.